Pawcity. It's a town that wraps around you like a wet trench coat, heavy and cold. The kind of place where street lights bleed into the perpetual drizzle, and every shadow holds a story nobody wants to tell. My name is Constantine Cat. I'm a private eye, and my beat is the grimy, rain-slicked pavement of this concrete jungle. Tonight, my beat brought me to the edge of the world, or at least the edge of the city, the Lagoon. The rain was coming down in sheets, drumming a somber rhythm on the roof of my sedan. Out on the water, police lanterns cut through the mist like desperate prayers, their lights dancing and dying on the dark surface. They were looking for something, or someone. Cops get antsy around water. It has a way of washing away evidence and keeping secrets. And tonight, the Lagoon was holding on to its secrets tighter than a miser with his last coin. This was my kind of night, the kind that smells like trouble and wet asphalt. I lit a cigarette, the cherry glowing like a single angry eye in the dark. The call I'd been waiting for would come. In this city it always does. The next morning the bell above my office door chimed, announcing a client. It was an old white Persian, the kind whose fur had seen better days, much like his faith. This was Preacher Theron, a pillar of the Pawcity community. His eyes were red-rimmed, not from prayer, but from a grief that was raw and sharp. He sank into the chair opposite my desk, his paws trembling as he laid out the facts. His daughter, Lila, was missing. Vanished without a trace 3 nights ago. The police had turned up nothing but whispers and dead ends. He'd come to me because he heard I was the kind of cat who was unafraid to dig where others wouldn't. He wanted the truth, he said. But in my line of work, the truth is rarely something you want to find. It's a bitter pill, and this old preacher looked like he'd had his fill of bitterness. I took the case. A missing girl, a frantic father, and a city full of shadows. It was a tune I knew all too well. My first stop was the Lagoon Chapel, a modest wooden building perched precariously close to the water's edge. This was Lila's sanctuary, the last place she was seen. The preacher told me she had a voice like an angel, and she'd often come here for midnight prayers, her hymns drifting out over the dark water. The air inside was thick with the scent of old wood, beeswax, and something else. Despair. I spoke to the groundskeeper, a grizzled old tomcat who'd seen more than his share of late-night comings and goings. He confirmed Lila was here that night, said her voice was sadder than usual, like a songbird with a broken wing. After she left, he heard nothing but the lapping of the water and the lonely cry of a loon. It was a dead end, but a poetic one. I started nosing around the docks, talking to the fishermen and the drifters who called the foggy banks of the Lagoon home. They were a superstitious bunch, their minds clouded by cheap catnip and old legends. The cops had already squeezed them for information and come up empty. But I wasn't wearing a badge. I just offered a sympathetic ear and a shared cigarette. That's when the whispers started. They spoke of a Lagoon lady, a ghostly figure seen gliding over the water in the dead of night, her form shimmering in the mist. The stories began right after Lila disappeared. Some said it was her ghost, unable to rest. Others swore it was a bad omen, a siren calling lost souls to a watery grave. It was folk-tale nonsense, the kind of story that festers in damp, forgotten places. But every legend has a kernel of truth, and I had a feeling this one was no different. I just had to peel back the layers of fear to find it. The preacher's house was a world away from the grimy docks. It stood on a manicured lawn, a monument to piety and prosperity. But inside, the silence was just as heavy. The preacher introduced me to his wife, Seraphina. She was a cream-colored Siamese, elegant and poised, with eyes the color of a winter sky cold, and holding a storm just beneath the surface. She offered condolences for my time, spoke of Lila in hushed, perfect sentences, like she was reciting a eulogy she'd practiced 100 times. She played the part of the grieving mother well, almost too well. There was a chill in her voice that had nothing to do with grief. It was the chill of a secret locked away tight. While the preacher was lost in his sorrow, her eyes followed my every move, calculating and sharp. A mother's love is a powerful thing, but so is a mother's pride. I asked to see Lila's room, a formality more than anything. It was pristine, untouched. The bed was made, her books were stacked neatly on the knitstand. It was the room of a girl who was expected to be perfect. As I was leaving, a glint of gold caught my eye from a vase of wilting lily in the hallway. I reached inside, my paw closing around a delicate chain. It was a necklace, a simple locket. I'd seen it before in a photo on the preacher's desk, Lila, smiling, with the same locket around her neck. The preacher had told me it was a gift from her mother. Seraphina stood in the doorway, her face a mask of polite inquiry, but I saw the flicker of panic in her cold blue eyes before she could hide it. Why hide a keepsake of your missing daughter? Unless it wasn't a keepsake, unless it was evidence. Back in my office, with the rain starting up again, the pieces began to click into place. The grieving mother with the icy gaze, the hidden necklace, the locals whispering about a ghostly lady on the water. It was a puzzle, and the picture it was forming was ugly. Seraphine's composure wasn't stoicism, it was control. She was controlling the narrative, controlling her husband's grief, controlling what the world saw of her perfect, pious family. Lila, with her sad songs and midnight visits to the chapel, didn't fit that picture. A daughter's secret can be a powerful weight, but a mother's shame? That can be a killing force. I had a theory, a gut feeling colder than the water in the lagoon. Now I just had to prove it. Night fell again, and I found myself back at the lagoon. The mist was thick, swallowing the moonlight. I parked in the shadows, my eyes fixed on the water near the chapel. I waited. The night wore on, silent save for the hum of the city behind me and the gentle lapping of the waves. Then I saw it. A figure, shrouded in the fog, moving toward the rickety old pier. It was Seraphina. She moved with a grim purpose, her elegant form a dark silhouette against the gray water. She was carrying something heavy. As she reached the end of the pier, she looked around, her movements furtive and quick. Then, with a grunt of effort, she heaved her burden into the lagoon. It hit the water with a sickening splash, a sound that the mist couldn't muffle. I didn't see what it was, but in that moment I saw everything. The reflection in the water wasn't a ghost. It was a mother trying to bury a truth she couldn't bear. I didn't need to dredge the lagoon to know what she'd thrown in. The truth was already floating to the surface. Through a few more discreet inquiries, I uncovered Lila's secret. The reason for her sad songs, her late-night escapes. She was in love. Not with a suitor her parents would approve of, but with another young woman from the congregation. A love they had to hide, a love deemed a sin in her father's church and a stain on her mother's reputation. Seraphina must have discovered it. The confrontation, the arguments, The shame. In her cold, calculating mind, a dead daughter was better than a disgraced one. The Lagoon lady wasn't Lila's ghost. It was Seraphina, night after night, returning to the scene, perhaps to dispose of evidence, or maybe drawn by a guilt so monstrous it had taken on a life of its own. She had silenced her daughter to protect the family's pristine image. As dawn broke, the first rays of sun cut through the mist over the lagoon, turning the murky water to gold. The truth was out, a cold, hard thing lying bare in the morning light. I'd given the preacher his answer. I watched from a distance as the police led Seraphina from her perfect house, her face finally stripped of its composure, revealing the ugly reality beneath. The truth had surfaced, but peace? Peace was nowhere to be found. Not for the old preacher, whose world had crumbled to dust, and not for the soul of a girl who just wanted to sing her own song. In Pawcity, some secrets are better left at the bottom of the lagoon, but they never stay there. They always float back up. Thanks for watching. This case was a tough one, even for a cat like me. If you want to see what other shadows I stir up in this city, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. You never know what secrets the next case will uncover. Stay safe out there.